Hello, everybody, and welcome to the top 8 of the KARDS 2020 World Championship. My name is Ólafur Steinarsson, and I'll be your host today. But with me, as always, are some player experts, and let's just introduce the entire panel right here, right now. It is Innocent Bubbles, Blue Blast, and Scout. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well, I'm doing well. Blue?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. The matches are only going to heat up in intensity from yesterday, so I'm super excited to be here.
Scott,
I'm
how are you?
doing pretty all right. Pretty all right, you know. Happy we got Blue here today with us, you know. Got the whole
Whole crew, we're all here.
Yeah.
Everybody up, ready, and we're going to be casting some insane games today. Just so everybody knows where we stand in the tournament right now, this is the current bracket. These are the matches that we're going to see today. We're going to be starting off with CCMS 31 against Saria. Then we're going to be going into, if I am not mistaken, let me find our little overview here.
It's then going to be Fenrir versus Graf Albert.
Yeah, Fenrir versus Graf Albert, Yujin versus Shan Yu, and then Darkness versus Loser. There we go. So, out of these games, which game are you guys looking forward to the most?
For me personally, CCMS kind of won me over yesterday, and I'm really curious to see how this first set goes on, and just want to see if he can give us some more surprises and just continue breaking the mold.
I got to agree. I think CCMS Saria is the game I'm most looking forward to. I think Fenrir versus Graf APC Albert is something I'm looking forward to as well, because Albert sort of played ramp in a way I've not seen people play it before, where he was very, very aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see how Fenrir matches up against that, obviously being one of our big contenders here. But I think Saria versus CCMS is going to be the game to look out for.
I have to agree.
Mm-hmm. See, I personally have to root for the favorite here. I got to go for Darkness. I want to see his match, see if I think our only remaining European player in this top 8. See if he can continue to represent the European meta and player base and just take this thing down.
Yeah, and obviously he has Team Ammo supporting him as well, so he's got a good squad with him. So I think if anyone's the man to do it, it's probably Darkness.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has his work cut out for himself. He has 7 Chinese challengers in between him and that World Championship title. And I know he doesn't take it lightly that he is, Europe's and the Western world's last hope in this World Championship. And I'm really impressed with seeing China step up here. And they were just about a third of the participants in the top 128, and now they've kind of managed to become 7 out of 8 in the top 8. So they seem to be performing extremely well. And it's interesting to see these different metas shape up in different regions, and then when we see them clash, even a year later, we're still seeing like ramp do new things, right? We're seeing things people do new things with that archetype, and I think that's super exciting.
Yeah, it really is, and the sort of different play styles coming together, and I just think when different ideas on how something should be done come together and face off, and you get to see how they interact with each other, that's when you get these awesome games where you have crazy things happening that we've just not seen before, and I hope we get to see even more new and exciting things today.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just catching up on some of the games yesterday were totally mind-blowing, just coming up from these Chinese players. I mean, totally. I just did not expect how rich of a, I guess, like a testing environment China has as far as the meta and the quality and the skill of the players there is, it's evenly matched with our European and even American players, which again is really awesome to see how such of a global game KARDS is, and the World Championship bringing everybody together is pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And today we're also going to be revealing 4 new cards from the upcoming Breakthrough expansion. We're going to be giving you a refresher on the new standard table props. We'll make sure to remind you plenty of times that pre-orders are open for the upcoming expansion. So I think we're going to have an awesome show in store for us here today, and I can't wait. So what we're doing now is we're just waiting for the players to get ready and set up. So while we do that, Blue and Blue and Scout, I'm gonna get you guys set up so you guys can prep the casting while me and Bubbles dive into the decks that these players are bringing a little bit more. So we'll catch up with you guys right after this segment. So Bubbles, tell us a little bit about the decks that these guys are bringing.
So Sari is bringing Soviet Japan Control, which has some really, really unique aspects to it. He's bringing this for Honor, which is Code of Bushido, where it destroys a friendly air unit and does 2 damage to all enemy units, or all enemies as well. It hits HQ.
Oh wow!
Really powerful with the Chica. He's bringing Japan German Feigned Retreat aggro, which is a favorite in this tournament. We've seen, I think, almost everyone. There's only been like 2 or 3 players that didn't bring this deck, and it's been kicking so much. It's just been absolutely popping off. He has Brit US Control. Nothing too new there, sort of what you expect from them. This sort of very slow and guard sort of play style where you get out these big guys and end the game with B-17s, Avengers, and your Lancaster. And then US Brit Control with Ramp in it. Sort of the same deck, but swapped nations. Then for CCMS, he's bringing this kind of Brit US, more air-based control. Still similar to Brit US traditional control, but just a bit more air-focused. He's bringing Soviet US tokens, a classic that we've seen recently, then becoming less of a full-on aggro deck, but more of this slow burn buff deck where you play a lot slower than it used to. German Japan discard, and then US Brit Ramp. Both sort of 2 very classic and traditional decks. Nothing too new there, but hopefully he can put on a solid performance with it.
Yeah, so I just got the bans here. CCMS bans the British deck, and Saria bans the US deck. So we're not going to be seeing that US aggressive ramp deck from CCMS again. Maybe no more credit floating this time around. Who knows? But we saw him bring his British deck again yesterday, and that felt very similar to the US ramp deck, right? It had a lot of the same cards and felt very powerful as well. So I expect him to be bringing that one into the series.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if we didn't see him bringing that. I think there is favors. We saw how disciplined he was for that US Brit. I think it's a really, really safe ban from Saria's part just to get rid of that. Because when your opponent is that disciplined, it not only means that if it's a bad matchup, you're in trouble, but also you can expect them not to make any mistakes and to perform with the deck in the way they should be playing with it. And was it Brit US Control CCMS banned?
Yeah.
I think once again that's a safe ban. I kind of would be worried about the Soviets just because I know Saria's Soviets are really competent and I would be scared of them. But I think deck-wise, that's definitely the one of the big threats.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be like we talked about, really interested to see this matchup. I'm also gonna be curious to know if these guys are maybe. Do they practice together? Do they theorycraft together? Or do they belong in the same QQ group? Do they have insights into each other's decks that we don't? That's going to make the level of play go even higher.
Absolutely. And when you've played against your opponent's deck, you not only know what its strong points are and how to defend against them, but you know what its weak points are, and you know how to exploit their weak points. I think if they have played against each other a lot, whether they're in the same practice group or not, they'll certainly counter each other's decks in different ways than we saw yesterday, and I think it will make for some even closer games if they know each other's decks in and out already.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just time zone wise, these guys are probably more likely to be facing off against each other on the ladder than against any of the US or European players a lot of the time, right? So if they're playing during their peak hours and during their lunch break, I would expect these players to have more experience with each other than the European players with the Chinese players or the US players with the Chinese players.
I think there's certainly something to be said for that, and I also think even if they're not matching up against each other, coming from a different meta but the same meta together, they'll sort of be playing around similar things more than we'd be playing around those things. just because they're facing the same sort of decks on ladder, and they'll be beating the same sort of things and getting beaten by the same sort of things. So your decks evolve in a similar fashion.
Yeah, well, we are ready to head on into game number 1 here in this best out of 3 between Saria and CCMS. Let's throw it over to our casters, Blue Blast and Scout. Take it away.
Alrighty, thank you for that. Looks
Yeah,
like it's
appreciate
gonna
that,
be.
Ollie.
Looks like Saria is bringing his, what is it, U.S. British ramp control, yeah, against CCMS Soviet token deck. Tokens obviously interesting matchup into ramp, because as we know, a lot of ramp removal relies on random destruction hitting really big single targets. Tokens kind of going very wide, avoiding a lot of that. A bit unfortunate, I think, for CCMS having to use a frontal assault to pull some light infantry. That's not usually what you want to see. You really want to use that card for the buff effect, but it seems like he was really struggling to get some early units out there. But he's got his light infantry now. Jasko able to eat a lot of that early token damage if they're not buffed up, because Jasko, of course, -1 damage from each damage source towards the HQ.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, definitely a slow start here from CCMS. No one drop, two drop, just wasting that frontal assault to get the units. And that Jasko is going to do a lot of heavy lifting, I think, for Saria this game. CCMS, I think so with the overall game plan with tokens is to go extremely wide on the board, lots of bodies, and then use your buffs like the Alliance, and we can do it, and Unity is strength, and just make absolutely giant tokens and use those to smash. So I think the overall strategy from Saria should be just kill all the tokens, kill every single token before he has the opportunity to get those buffs off.
CCMS looking like he's in a pretty good spot right now, though. He's probably deciding which buff he wants to use. Maybe the frontal assaults, the Katyushas, the Alliance, excuse me, or maybe
Yeah, I
he
mean, do
wants
you
to
think he
save
goes
it.
for it here? I mean, he could go for at least one frontal assault plus the Katusha. It
hmm
looks like that's what he's gonna do. Um,
Um, as we did see from Saria, though, he does have the Seaborn Invasion in hand, which could be very, very good against tokens, completely ripping the front line away from CCMS.
Very good. Absolutely. And yeah, I mean there's two more turns here until like a potential carpet bomb, but it looks like Saria does not have one in hand. But the 101st gonna come down and definitely, oh yeah, takes out that Katusha. But CCMS is gonna be able to get off a huge alliance here, making everything into 4/5s.
Those are
And
some very scary tokens.
yeah, we're 3 turns off from a seaborne invasion. So CCMS might have the tempo advantage here to just get lethal before Saria can hit that turn 8.
Just might. Doing 6 damage there, of course, to Jasko, preventing 2 of it. Um, he has quite a few of his tokens down to 3 hit points. He maybe is hoping to get another buff off before any kind of AoE comes. And, Sari is getting into that credit range, the 6, 7, 8 range, where AoE is very much the card to be played.
Yeah, but he just doesn't have it. I mean, so, strategic bombing is not doing much for him here.
hmm
Again, he has to just get to that seaboard invasion. Uh, because with Saria's deck here, I mean, this is kind of a very standard issue, U.S. Brit ramp control, and the game plan is really just to sort of grind out your opponent's resources with cards that get, 2 cards for 1, like the Avenger, B17, Carpet Bomb, things to generate card advantage for you um, by destroying multiple enemy units and with 1 card.
Also, go ahead.
Frontal Assault will do 4, 8, 12, 16, putting him down to 1. And if he gets, oh no, I guess he can't high roll with the Katusha.
The
Yeah,
Jasker there is kind of saving him.
but it's totally safe to do this. Sorry doesn't have a carpet bomb. Even with the carpet bomb, there's not a lot he can do. These units are just too big.
One thing to note, if CCMS does put too many things in his support line, the Seaborn Invasion could end up just wiping out those tokens and sending them all back to hand because there wouldn't be any space in the support line for them to just retreat, therefore erasing all of those buffs. If it gets to that, it's looking like it isn't quite going to reach that point with the current state yet.
Yeah,
Well,
he
here we
just
go.
doesn't have enough. That's game one. Lightning fast win. Wow, showing the power of how those tokens can just snowball one after the other if they're not dealt with while they're at a small size.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Go ahead.
that's the big thing with tokens in that matchup is that ramp really needs to pretty much just get to carpet bomb. If they're not getting carpet bomb, if they're not ramping there right away, even with that Seaborn, like you saw, he couldn't quite get there quick enough before the tokens just absolutely took over everything, and it was far too late.
Yeah, and man, just finding those early buff cards, even using that frontal assault early to just get those infantry units, not coming back to bite him in the ass. But we are ready to jump into game number 2 here, so we're gonna send it back to Blue and Scout that are gonna take us through this one. Currently, CCMS leads 1-0.
Okay, so we're looking at game 2 here. Looks like Saria is going for the same deck here. US Prit Control seems to be US Prit Control seems to be very confident in his abilities with this deck. And CCMS going for looks to be a Brit US air deck. Very cool.
Saria getting his carpet bomb this time. However, this may not be the deck where it's super useful against. Usually with these British US air decks, you'll see a lot of things like close air support, maybe some finest hours, a lot of really big burst, like explosive planes that just kind of come out of nowhere. The instant destruction from like Avengers or maybe even bounce cards could be really good for Saria here, but it's going to be a little hard to tell.
Yeah, and it's interesting just going over CCMS's deck list. He's not as all in on the air units as I would think with a sort of a close air support deck. I mean, he only has 2 of the 1K Gladiator Mark 1s. He is running the 3 set of the Swordfish Mark 1. He does have Albacore. He does have the HMS Illustrious Kitty Hawk, Empire Strikes. HMS Illustrious with the Empire Strikes is an insane combo. Um, but he does have some cards that aren't going to be too great against more of a defensive ramp deck. He has like a 1 Awoken Giant, something like Enemy Spotted. I don't think there's going to be a time where Sari is going to take frontline, maybe until it's too late. And also interesting with one of the TBF1 Avengers.
Maybe looking to send that Swordfish to hand with a bounce, get rid of that finest hour buff. He may decide to drop a honey, he may not. As we know, the commando could very easily destroy that honey with a single attack. Not much to stop it. Interesting thing about CCMS's hand, I've noticed he's running Secret Operatives. I don't think we've seen that card yet in this top 16.
No, and it's a great card. Countering an enemy order that targets your unit and giving it +2 health can be a huge blowout, especially against those Empire of the Sun decks, right? Uh, but yeah, I don't know about just playing the honey out there to die. It's just such a free kill from the commando there from CCMS. I wonder what was the thought process of getting that honey down.
Maybe he wanted the commando to have lower health, like in case it was maybe buffed later or something. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Back to that Secret Operatives, though, kind of a difficult card to use against USA in particular, just with how the nature of their removal works.
Yeah, it's all non-targeted, right?
Absolutely. Even
B-17,
those carpet
Plunger.
bombs. I'm not sure if the Seaborn is the right play, especially with CCMS's Commando on the board. A bit of a pretty unfortunate Seaborn at that, too. A
Yeah,
milk truck and a 3-3.
I give that about a 2 out of 10.
Yeah,
Effective.
that's that's the second worst possible outcome for Seaborn.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, I think there was merit to just slam down the B-17 there on turn 9 because
I'd
it's
have to agree with
really,
you.
would be pretty uncontested with Saria, being 2 credits ahead of CCMS. I mean, he could respond with the RAAF Lightning, but would he really want to let Saria have that deployment effect again? I don't think so.
Maybe, perhaps CCMS, or excuse me, perhaps Saria wasn't actually too concerned with the outcome of that Seaborn. Maybe because he has those 2 carpet bombs, maybe he's trying to really encourage CCMS to just go as wide as possible to get that maximum carpet bomb value.
Oh, I do like that line. Yeah, sort of try to soften him up a little bit, get him to overextend, and then just hit him with the double carpet back to back. Yeah, that
Mhm.
would be a huge swing if let's see how greedy that he can get. I think the greedier he gets, the overall better he is. I does does CCMS have any sort of like cup of tea or anything? I guess he has one we can do it, 2 alliance, so that cards like that will
Mhm.
help get his units out of carpet bomb range.
Oh, okay, looks like the first carpet bomb is gonna come out. We may see the Sherman get dropped, or perhaps another Surrey with an attack. Okay, looks like that's what he's going for. It's a good play, and he still has that other carpet bomb in hand that was ooh.
Hmm. Now, I guess interesting if he's just planning to use both carpet bombs, would he just leave the Isuri in the front line? Let CCMS if he wants to trade in, let him use the credit on his turn.
That's a very good point,
I
but
guess it's not a huge thing, but you
Saria
know,
may also be scared of, buff cards like the Alliance. Because it is kind of a mind game. It's like, I need to use this before they buff, or, I need to buff before they AoE. And it's kind of a race. Both players maybe getting a little greedy to see how much they can get away with before they have to use that card.
yeah, honestly, I think it may just come down to who can be the greediest player here in this matchup. Because both these decks can go pretty long. Okay, big alliance coming out from CCMS, just huge air units on his side of the board. Uh, what does Saria have in response? I mean, this is a great B-17 here. You could B-17 also Blackwatch plus Grenadier Guards is great.
The Carpet Bomb is still also a pretty good option, I'd say, just because it makes the RAF.
Whoa.
Ooh,
High
it
altitude
would kill the
combat.
Mosquito. It would make the RAF and the Kitty Hawk also, lethal to a Surrey attack.
Wow, look at this. CCMS here can retreat the Grenadier Guards. Then he has 6 and 4 to kill the 2/9. I mean, I think he just tries to value trade here and then play Secret Ops.
Maybe. He may be perhaps weighing the chances that Saria has another Carpet Bomb in hand, because obviously if he starts trading into those Surreys, he is absolutely going to get rocked by the next Carpet Bomb.
Yeah, absolutely will.
He may want to
Absolutely.
save the hit points on his vehicles until he can buff them up again.
I mean, yeah, if he wanted to play more safe here, he could just go for that mobilization. Try
Absolutely.
try to farm more
CCMS,
buff. Yeah.
as we saw yesterday, is an extremely patient player. Getting his first close air support, I believe, could be very strong for him.
Wow, yeah, that is a +4/+4 currently for 1K. I have very
Zarya with
intimate experience with close air support.
Zarya with a few decent options here. Of course, he has the carpet bomb. Blackwatch could also be really potent. Uh, yes, double. Okay, yeah. I think having those quad guards out is also quite good, considering all CCMS has out are fighters. That's gonna be really tough for him to break through. The Woken Giant probably not gonna see too much value this game with the nature of how Zarya's deck works.
No, absolutely not. And man, Blackwatch hitting the hand with 4 orders, giving a total of +8 credits to his overall hand.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. As Secret Ops still not getting a lot of value. I'm seeing 2 dead cards in CCMS's hand right now.
So close air support is a +4. He can put that on the lightning with 5 attack. Yep, looks like that's what he's going to do. And he's going to use that to kill the grenadier guards, I would think. Just time to value trade here, man. It's kind of, I think he's getting to this point where he has to sort of do something here just to try to break through. Because once these guards are dead, I mean, look at the amount of power on board here. 9, 6 is 15, +4 is 19, +3 is 21 points of damage on board.
I'm not sure if CCMS should be trying to get the secret operatives off every other turn. I think perhaps he should have gone for the attack and taken out that Saray with his Kitty Hawk.
Yeah, you think he could just, it just could be a waste of credits at this point, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, it looks like, I mean, so, Sari's been sitting on this second carpet bomb here. This is actually could be a good clear for him. Carpet bomb is going to clear the mosquito and the first lightning, and then if you follow that up with high altitude bombing, we'll get a full clear of this board here. And I
There we
mean,
go.
looking at CCMS's hand, he has like a HMS Illustrious, he has a Empire Strikes, mostly a lot of orders and not a whole lot of gas. He does have that Manchester there.
Yeah,
Just,
that could be really impactful later if we start seeing B-17s drop, but
yeah,
probably not going to get too much value out of an Empire Strikes anytime soon. He doesn't really have bombers on the board, and that Blackwatch really made it a very, expensive investment to get bombers out and play the Empire Strikes in the same turn.
right. So I wonder if CCMS has the foresight here to think, you know, does Saria have a high altitude bombing coming or a strategic bombing? Because he knows that both the carpet bombs are now have been used. So does he think, well, let me just trade into these cards and get them out of the way now? And it looks like
That
he should be happy.
may.
Yep.
Hmm.
Now the question is, okay, it looks like he is. Oh, and he ran out of time. He's
Going
not
for
able
the.
to hit two.
That is unfortunate. Yeah, but perhaps Saria is suspecting there's an ultra now, because from his point of view, he sees 3 credits remaining.
Right, that could have actually worked in his favor as sort of a mind game.
Absolutely. Maybe unintentional, but
Unintentional, yeah. Or could be fully intentional with the this caliber of player, we definitely saw some mind games yesterday. Uh,
yeah, it wouldn't be
wow.
the first time CCMS has run down the clock.
But look at this clear here. He's going to have 3 bombers plus 1 from the Empire is going to be a 4 damage AoE. Plus 1 to
He
the face.
may
Drop
decide
the
to drop the
gladiator.
plane here. Yeah, he may decide to drop the Gladiator. He may not. All right. Well, if Saria pulls a strategic bombing, that could be absolutely devastating for CCMS. It looks like he didn't get it, but without that strategic bombing, it is somewhat tedious for Saria to clear this. Probably don't want to use high altitude bombings on just a handful of, 1K units. Almost seems a bit wasteful. So I'll be interested to see how he deals with this. His hand's not looking too great for it though.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the best play he can put forward here. 101st plus B-17. Unfortunately, doesn't have any sort of fighter to help block from those bombers. Like a Corsair would have been great to slam down there. Because here comes the Manchester. Essentially 11K to come down with the targeted removal on that B-17.
See if CCMS is gonna try to get him to. Okay. Was worried he might try to go for the secret operatives again. Maybe he knows now that secret operatives is not going to be what cuts it this time around.
Pershing off the top. I wonder if you just run that Pershing
Ooh,
up.
very smart play there, removing one of those so the high
great.
altitude is guaranteed to hit the Manchester.
But look, CCMS is going to get to use his one Awoken Giant we thought would never get to see use.
Yeah, there we go. This may be a good time for him to try and get rid of that 7K mobilize, now that there's really no pressure coming from Saria at the moment. Sexton, very good. Pioneers could be really good to mitigate some of the damage from Blackwatch. No, it looks like he got rid of all those Blackwatch cards.
And he drew his one Avenger, which is going to be absolutely backbreaking if Saria goes for this Pershing move up, which I think is pretty likely since he only has 2 cards left. He is sort of in a bind here. But also, he doesn't even have to Avenger if he doesn't want to. CCMS can actually just see and pin.
Going for the Pershing, it's going to be a really, really pretty straightforward play by CCMS here.
Yeah,
just get rid of that Pershing.
Oh.
Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, and I think he just goes wide, sets up for a big alliance next turn. Yeah, even close air support coming out, making a 3/5 fighter. That secret op, which I don't think will ever be triggered.
It's just a good luck token at this point.
Right? Yeah. Oh, Corsair is the beginning of the way to try to get out of this here.
Saria pretty much out of options, emptying the last of his cards. It's really looking like a rough position for him. Those cards can definitely buy him a little time, but he's going to need, luck of the draw to kind of help him figure out what he does next.
Now, do you think we see we can do it trade, value trade the Avenger into the Corsair?
We might.
Could do. Otherwise, could do Alliance and close air support. Could actually even move the fighter up, get the Sexton down, and then Alliance.
That's a very good point, Ollie. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Ollie behind the scenes made a point where the one time Saria played a targeted order with that retreat to where he could get the high altitude bombing off, that was one of the few times that CCMS did not trigger his secret operatives.
Ooh. Saria taps out. Oh, GG.
Yeah, and with that, CCMS taking that series 2-0.
I think something we saw really coming out there for CCMS in that matchup was just the amount of draw he had. You saw his mobilizations and things. He sort of just he sort of just outlasted Saria. And Saria was dropping down these big units to try and deal with CCMS's start. and you had these big AoEs just coming back and kind of taking out lots and lots of things at once. I think one of the big winning factors there for CCMS was drawing and just having card advantage.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see. There's a lot of cards that we didn't think were going to get much use from CCMS's deck. He's got one copy of Awoken Giant. He's got one copy of Enemy Spotted. He's got one Avenger. He's running a lot of one drop, which is sort of a weird thing to see. Generally, you try and run 2 copies at least of cards if you can, because it increases consistency. But really, just bringing lots and lots of one drops and saying, I only need one Enemy Spotted, I only need one Avenger, I only need one Awoken Giant. And you see it worked for him. He got his one Awoken Giant off. He got his one Avenger when and where he needed it. Maybe bring in, certain one drops as your alliance could be the new strat.
Yeah.
It does bring a lot of diversity. It makes it kind of really hard for the opponent to predict what he could possibly have.
So Saria, actually, after the game was over, I saw it on my screen, went into his deck list, having built the deck that he knew he was going to be facing from CCMS, and went through it just to double check how unlucky he got that he was holding that Avenger as soon as he put that Pershing out, right? He was like, just made sure that, he was just running one Avenger, right? So he was clearly not expecting that. He was definitely playing around the fact that there was only one in there and didn't consider it a threat. So maybe that's an additional benefit, right? People play less around single cards in your deck that can really kind of surprise them.
I do think it's something also to do with CCMS's playstyle. We've seen him play very, very slowly and methodically. And when you have one drops and you play slowly, it gives you a lot more time to find these one drops. And when you're perfectly comfortable sitting on these one drops and waiting for it to be useful, it's a lot more viable just to run one copy of something, because hey, I'm just going to play slow and there's so much time for me to find this Avenger, so much time for me just to sit on this Awoken Giant and wait till I need it and then pounce.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And next match that's going to be coming up is going to be between Albert, Graf APC Albert, and Fenrir. Fenrir beating out J King 7 yesterday and keeping himself in the tournament. I can't wait for this one. But we're going to go on to a quick 3-minute break, and then we'll come back and head on into the best of 3 series. Might spoil one card before we go into it. I don't know. Maybe. All right, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. See you right after this. All right, everybody, we are back here. What Bubbles? What are you doing here?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm not meant to be here. I'm lost. I've wandered in. Well, have we got something going on first? Is that why I'm here?
Get out. Ah, there he is. All right, there. Whoa, Blue just appears out of nowhere. All right. Well, we're going to be heading on into the best out of 3 here between Fenrir and Graf ABC Albert in a few minutes. But before we head on into there, what are these decks that these guys are bringing, and what should we be looking for in this matchup, Blue?
Yeah, definitely. So just starting with Graf ABC Albert, it looks like his first deck is a Japan-German, sort of a deck we've been seeing all over the ladder. Very aggressive, Rising Sun, taking an early board presence with the 15th Cavalry, 34th Infantry, and then just keeping that tempo rolling, keeping the ball rolling into the Mitos, Akitas, and just burning out the opponent. Looks like he has 1 Blitzkrieg, which is a card we don't actually see a lot on ladder, but could be good in this tournament setting, and rocking the 3 Air Blitz, even post-nerf. It is a very, very strong direct damage card. And then second deck is USA Britain. Looks to be ramp with #1 commandos to hold the game early, the Honey, the East Surrey Regiment, Black Watch, Grenadier Guards, all the big value guards that Brit loves to run. And USA, my favorite nation, with just the power plays, high altitude bombing, seaborne invasion, looking to just ramp out a huge B-17, and also running a patent as well, which is very unexpected. But if you patent out a B-17, that's pretty huge. It's usually like 2 kills for 1.
Yeah, and that's actually something we saw yesterday. It's that patent being used to great effect in that match. You know, he was able to play it, and then all of a sudden get out. I think it was like 2 #1 commandos up into the front line, push Grenadier Guards up into the front line as well, and within a turn, just pouring on the pressure, seemingly out of nowhere. So really, really excited to see if we're going to see some patent combo plays come out in this matchup.
That would be super exciting. I would love to see that. And then looking at the third deck, looks like we have Germany with Italy. Wow. So he has the Gebirgsjäger, Encirclement, the Volksgrenadier, Nashev, Autocannon, kind of those hallmarks of the original German aggro deck, but with this Italian flavor. He has Alpine as his Italians for ally choice. The BK, the Eastern Front bound. He also has huge spells like the Bismarck to come down and just do 7 damage to the face in the late game once you've gotten that HQ below 7 with your early Alpine and aggression. So this deck looks great.
Unfortunately, though, we just got the bans in, and Albert does ban the US Italy deck from Fenrir, so doesn't really want to face that, and Fenrir bans the British deck from Albert.
Okay. Yeah, that is a solid choice, because some games can just be stolen away by that direct damage, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just before we jump into this game, the players are just about ready. We're going to spoil one card real quick here, so let's jump on over to our spoiler screen here, where we have a card queued up to be spoiled. You know, seeing as though you just told us that your favorite nation is the U.S., I think it's fitting that we show a U.S. card here. This card is the PBY Catalina. So it's an elite bomber. At the start of your turn, draw 2 cards, then put a card in hand on top of your deck. And what I want to highlight here is what this introduces is a new type of functionality to cards, which is being able to pick a card from your hand and put it back into your deck. So currently these effects have either been, you know, the card that was drawn or random, but now you're able to basically take a sneak peek on the second card in the deck to see if that suits you better for that coming turn.
Yeah, this looks like a knockout here. I mean, just an insane ability that combos so well with many things. You know, the Honey comes to mind. and having that 3-5 body is actually huge for 4K, and having it be a bomber as well. And the sort of draw manipulation, looking at the top cards of your deck, you can also hide away a card maybe you don't want to get discarded from the opponent, and draw that later. So just it's a very like toolbox sort of a card. I think you can do so many things with it. Yeah, and I'm totally hyped for this. I think this is going right in my next USA brew.
Well, I mean, I agree with that. I feel like what we're seeing a lot in Breakthrough is, there's functionality coming into the cards that just give you a little bit more stuff to play around with, right? It gives you a little bit more strategic option, a little bit more depth to your play. So I'm really, really excited to see how the community reacts to these cards and what decks they are managing to build out of it. Because what we're seeing here today and seeing in this World Championship is that a year from the last World Championship, they're still doing new things in ramp, right? So what's going to happen when you all of a sudden throw in 80 new cards, a different functionality, like being able to pick cards from hand, all this stuff that's coming. And we're going to be revealing, more stuff over time. So I'm truly excited for that. It looks like the players are just about set up and ready. Just before we jump into that, I do want to remind you guys that in Breakthrough as well, we're going to be introducing a brand new Battlefield. This is what it looks like, and this is going to be released to all players for free. It will join the standard rotation of Battlefields, and everybody will be able to play and experience the game on this awesome Breakthrough Battlefield, and I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on this one.
Wow, yeah, that is well done, Ollie, and big props to you guys for just releasing this to everyone for free to play around with.
Oh well, that's our pleasure. I seem to be getting out of frame here on my camera. I apologize for that. There you go. It's our pleasure, and like we've always said, we prioritize the experience of our players first, and we want you guys to want to spend money. I mean, the feeling should be that you're getting so much stuff for free that you want to give money, right? So, but with that, we are ready to head on into this best out of 3 between Albert and Fenrir. Let's send it over to our casters for this series, Scout and Bubbles. Guys, take it away.
Thank you very much, Ollie.
So Fenrir bringing his Japan aggro deck. Albert bringing his, I believe this is Germany-Italy mid-range, so we should see some Outback.
Other way around. Fenrir with the German-Italy.
Oh, yes, I got myself confused.
Or, excuse me, German-Japan.
Yeah, bringing his mid-range, yes. And then Albert bringing his Japan Rising Sun aggro with the Blitzkrieg.
All right.
Getting a very fast start for Albert here, getting 2 15th Cavalry in his starting hand and a Rising Sun. It means Fenrir can trade and he can still get this Rising Sun draw off.
Fenrir's hand looking a bit rough to deal with, maybe Jagro this early. Ooh, more bicycles coming out, even more Rising Suns.
Yeah, the Emperor of the Sun is definitely a dead card in this matchup.
Jagro I find to be pretty potent against Germany, just because Germany generally lacks any kind of damage control to stop a lot of that early damage. A lot of that early damage really does stick against Germany, and that can be really impactful later in the game.
It really does, and it's actually a Kriegsmoon. I thought it was an Empire of the Sun, but it's got a Kriegsmoon in hand, which is also a dead card. And like you said, Germany not really having a way of dealing with this early damage. It sticks to you, and you can't heal up. You can't try and rebuild your defenses once they've been destroyed. And there's the Emperor of the Sun, another sort of dead card in his hand. Finding the Flampanzer.
I believe this is kind of Fenrir's Jack of all trades deck, right?
Yes,
where
it's kind of
he's
mid-range.
not super strong in any area, but he's pretty solid throughout the game. We can see the Flampanzer and the Gibbsjägers coming out. We may see a lot of the Japanese guards hitting the board soon if he starts pulling them. Those could be pretty good at stalling.
Signal Regiment, certainly a great find. When that Flampanzer's already been used, it's fairly safe to drop one.
Absolutely.
And I think we've spoken about this matchup before with German mid-range. Your way of shutting down Jagro is through tempo, not through kind of defensive plays. So Fenrir here really needs to take this front line and start putting some pressure onto Albert.
Graf with that tough decision, debating if he wanted to go for the Jaeger trade or hit face.
I think
Maybe worried about the Jaeger later on.
Yeah,
but-
especially when it encircles. But I think versus Germany, this is the right moves to do because you've got to try and get this early face damage in and kill them before they can stabilize. We see
Akita
a
hitting the
encirclement coming out.
Flampanzer.
If he can move this Flampanzer up and get the encirclement off, it could potentially be a very big swing for Fenrir. We also, with German mid-range, you can expect a Nashab, and I think Nashab versus Jagro is almost a free win in itself.
Yeah, that's very true. It makes the trades extremely easy for Germany and lets them keep up really well. And adds to that tempo theory we were talking about yesterday, how Germany needs that tempo to deal with Jagro.
Yeah, certainly. And he can clear the front line if he wants to. May take 2 damage and splash, we'll find out. Yeah, that 2 damage from the Akita going face. But even with these Flampanzers and the Panzer III in hand, just an unstoppable swarm of units from Albert.
Opting to use the Sendai over the honorable death.
Slightly brave, but I think it's not a terrible choice. There's lots of good honorable death targets still, and I think saving it to better south cast if you need to, just to get a little bit more draw, can be a good option. I imagine we'll see the Panzer III come down, possibly the Panzer 35 as well, since he can drop that and trade, and then keep his Panzer on full health. If he wants to, he can trade, move up and circle, and secure the front line with the Panzer 35T.
He may want to try to save that encircle for the Panzer III, however. Encircle and Panzer III probably the best encircle target aside from maybe an Su-76.
I think, yeah, possibly Volksgrenadier, but it's definitely up there. That honorable death should see that come out. Gonna go face for free as well. Move up the Sendai, try and set up a Blitzkrieg. He's hoping probably for a Panzer 35T. You drop it, move it up, you encircle it, and then you Blitzkrieg. You can do a lot of damage. I imagine we probably won't see that Sendai dying this turn because you cannot drop the Zero and the Panzer to trade with it. Depends what he finds from the Africa Corps. Panzer out.
Ooh,
really, really good here. Trading.
Really good pull with Africa.
Yeah, getting back your Flampanzer and giving you a good option for your encirclement, like we were talking about earlier. Not what Albert is
with a
looking for.
really tragic hand right now. No units to get any value from any of those cards. That's going to get Fenrir the swing he needs.
One of the big downsides from the Rising Sun Jagro over the Feigned Retreat is if you're Feigned Retreat and you top deck that here, it doesn't matter if you have the front line or not. You can still rebuild in one turn. But Rising Sun aggro, kind of relying on you taking that front line, little bit less reliable. Oh,
Ooh,
and I
absolutely
think that's
brutal hand by Graf. Graf just going to go ahead and submit there.
I think you kind of have to with a front line like that from Fenrir. Fenrir taking game 1 over Albert.
That was tough to look at. You know, really, you really see the, I guess, the trade-off you take by playing Rising Sun Jagro versus something like Feign Retreat. If you lose that essential front line, your game plan is pretty much over. I mean, you have to just keep that ball rolling with those Rising Suns, and also some pretty unfortunate top decks there. Encirclement with no units into Rising Sun into the second encirclement, which is no supporting units, and also getting hit by the double Flame Panzer into the double Panzer Panzer J is. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even, you know, how fast that he killed him that game with those Panzers. I don't even think if he had hit a feign retreat, he would have had time, because that is, that is a card that you need a good couple turns of not getting your face smashed in to sort of rebuild your board there.
Thank you, Ollie. Thank you, Blue. And I just got news that Ollie was muted that entire time, so our apologies. But I hope Blue's conversation was interesting enough, even without Ollie there.
All I did was ask stupid questions, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, y'all saw the game. Y'all know what happened.
So Fenrir bringing his Brit Japan air deck, it looks like, and then Albert bringing his ramp deck, which we've seen him perform very, very well with.
Seen ramp performing pretty well in general, I'd say, this whole top 16.
I think this is a pretty slow hand for Albert to mulligan. He's got the commandos, but they don't really do much against Predair, and Fenrir's got a very, very aggressive deck. I think Fenrir can apply a lot of early pressure and put Albert onto the back foot, not really finding any solutions in Albert's hand for a good 4 or 5 turns.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, he could maybe have the bounce for that swordfish, having to pass his first 2 turns.
And I think if Fenrir plays the air support, it's going to come back to bite him. I feel like dropping the Fury Fighter's the better move, just because Albert does have this bounce. If you drop a buff and it gets bounced, you just lose the buff.
Probably going to force that bounce out of Graph here. Really not any other thing he can do. And he probably knows if he leaves that Fury Fighter on the board, that's going to be half his health gone.
Yeah, I'd
pretty
imagine.
much right away.
Ooh, although he's leaning towards ramp.
Going for the ramp. Ooh.
Yes. I think part of his logic...
Probably banking on that RWF. Fenrir can't really attack twice if he uses the close air support.
I almost feel like you just attack twice without playing the close air support, or you attack once
or
and you put
he
down
uses
another unit.
Yeah, like on his bomber, he uses the close air support, and then attacks with both of them if he does that.
I'd certainly like to see him putting some pressure down on the board. I think putting close air support on the fighter is putting too many eggs in one basket.
Yeah, I think that was not the right play because he can't attack twice with it. I believe he would have gotten more damage if he did it. Well, it would have been the same amount of damage, but...
No, it would have been +1 damage, because close air support gives +3/+3/+3, and then the fighters or bomber had 1 damage to begin with. So it would have been 3/4. And finding a pretty solid top deck there with the for the Emperor. If you can get that off with the Fury Fighter, you can do a lot of work, especially when you have the Pioneers in hand, which I believe he does. We might want to see him drop those Pioneers and then start searching for some sort of blitz, like Finest Hour. And once you have Finest Hour for the Emperor, you can kind of just end the game right there on the spot.
That's right. Ooh. Maybe opting for the Finest Hour now?
If so,
or
I'd
not
expect
the Finest Hour, excuse me, for the Emperor, my bad.
He can do 2 damage to face, because you can play it, get 3 op costs from both of them, hit one of them into the fighter, and then play S priority to finish it off. I don't think it's an efficient use of your resources, but it's certainly an option.
I'm going to have to agree with that. He's probably going to lose his bomber here now with a trade from the RWF, unless Graf decides to maybe go for a ramp.
He's going to go for the trade. Thinking about moving up, going to go for the War Machine, just start ramping a little bit. And we may see Fenrir doing big damage in the next few turns.
Just might.
Fenrir fighting some draw. Unfortunately for us, we've lost Fenrir's signal, so we don't know what he's found. Found the HMS. I imagine we're going to see him combo off this turn now. You buff all these attacks, and then you play air superiority on the RAF in the backline. You can finish it off and do 4 damage to face.
Seems like a really good play there. He may try to clear the commando as well.
It's certainly an option, but I feel like at this point in the stage, you're trying to apply pressure to the face. I'm interested to see what he chooses to do. Just you cannot get around that fighter without trading everything else on board. I feel like if you want to get rid of that commandos, you use 2 bombers to do it instead. There you go. Using 2 bombers
opting to get rid of the commando, yeah. Getting the
Avenger,
board,
not what he's looking for. Just
going
gonna
for
go for
the
high
high
altitude.
altitude, getting rid of both of the actual units that can attack. Could be.
Although, if Fenrir finds the right pieces, he's still got a lot of damage in hand. He's got another for the Emperor.
Oh, this is getting spooky.
This is certainly getting spooky. He could potentially have lethal next turn.
Not putting the
I think he's playing around
Kitty Hawk
carpet.
down.
Yeah, I think he's playing around carpet bombing by not putting both down. Sort of saying, I don't want to put 2 units with 3 defense down, playing against ramp with this late into the game.
This is kind of a rough hand for Graf here. Like, he's got a lot of things that could really empower him in the following turns, but he just needs to find the time to do it. Ooh, Grenadiers could maybe save him later, but it's not looking great for him. P40 also a good pull if he can survive this next turn.
I think Fenrir might have lethal though. It's certainly possible. If he can buff that up, he can give it what, plus 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he's got lethal.
Oh.
That becomes a 6 attack. That's 12 damage. And then you drop the kitty. You drop the Kitty Hawk to 2 damage. And I think we might be seeing Fenrir miss lethal. If instead of dropping that Fury Fighter,
yeah, he could have dropped the Kitty Hawk instead.
Although actually he wouldn't have. Yeah, he would have had lethal that turn if he dropped the Kitty Hawk instead of the Fury Fighter. Slight hiccup.
He's still in a very good position, but oh no, because that honey's on the board. That might actually come back to bite him in the ass.
Ooh, he does have some AoE.
He does. Yeah. Oh wait. Yeah. He could play the Kitty Hawk and then the.
Yeah, he's still got lethal.
The Empire Strikes. Yeah, he still has lethal.
Playing it close. That should be game 2 to Fenrir. And then taking the series 2-0 over Albert. Unless he misses it. Going for the Monty first. Possibly checking for what's on top of his deck. Just no reason not to look first. You know, you may as well draw. Take your time. No need to rush.
We know he has lethal. I would hate to see him miss lethal 2 turns in a row.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, he's sitting on a Shalling.
Does he not realize his Empire Strikes is going to do 1 damage regardless?
Either that or he doesn't know the kitty can hit face. There's certainly something going on here.
He needs to hit face.
I'd hate to see him take out the honey and miss lethal. Oh,
no! No, Fenrir! You're missing lethal! No, my heart! My heart! Oh, you hate to see it miss lethal twice in a row.
And he's going to get an Avenger down and attack with it on this turn. This is a huge hiccup from Fenrir, and I imagine
Fenrir, my dude, I had hopes. Yeah, you were my favorite coming in, but I think you and I are gonna have a talk after this, man. Oh,
can get down the Empire Strikes, do 2 damage to everything, take out the honey if he wants to, but still, such a huge hiccup.
Why won't he play the Empire Strikes? He can drop the Albacore. Why is he? Oh,
he's gonna go for it. He's gonna go for it.
He should pin the Grenadiers.
Possibly forgetting about the 1 bonus damage from Empire Strikes. There you go. Doing 2 damage to all, possibly kicking himself from earlier. He may realize what's happened and that he missed lethal. There's certainly the potential still for Fenrir to win. However, Albert being given another shot at victory.
A finest hour in a bomber could help Fenrir a lot, though he is out of cards, and it may be too late by the time he gets an option like that.
I think what he's going to be looking for is convoy more than anything to generate some draw. If he finds a Wrath...
Oh, that's good. That's it. There it is. Okay.
Oh, don't scare us like this, Fenrir.
Oh.
Sometimes you do misplays, but you get saved by your top deck, you know.
Yeah, that was insane, and I am not muted to the stream this time around, guys. I promise. All right, Blue, let's jump to our 2-shot here and talk about that game. What an insane 2-0 there from Fenrir.
absolutely incredible. I mean, that was a roller coaster of emotions towards the end there.
Yeah.
Oh, Fenrir just missing lethal. I was watching him like look at the cards, maybe trying to reread them, but oh man. And then with the amazing top deck of the close air support to kill the guard and hit face for lethal, it was just incredible. Couldn't have drawn it up any better.
Yeah. It was insane, and it shows as well. These players are extremely good at the game, and I feel like, even in the games where we see this come out, I feel like we're always seeing, a battle, right? It's like one person is clearly trying to accomplish something, the other is just keeping them at bay, and I think we're going later into these matches than we are going into. If these matches were played same deck, same players on ladder, they would play out very differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Just yeah, the games have all been so incredible today, uh, and it just yeah, we're seeing cards at the highest level, really levels that we have not seen before, um, and it just me coming in as a player expert is just amazing to see kind of the thought process and what these players are going through while they're also under just immense pressure as well. I mean, this is the big one, right? This is the world stage that they're competing on here, and it's also just an accomplishment in itself just to get to this top 16, to even to qualify the top 120. So really, really well done for everybody competing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to be having a best out of 3, another series coming up after this. It's going to be Yujin versus Xian Yu. I can't wait for that series. Before we head on into that, we're going to be spoiling another card. So we're going to go on to a quick 3-minute break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the upcoming best of 3, spoiling a card, and then getting straight into the action. Don't move a muscle. KARDS 2020 World Championship will keep going right after this. And we are back here at the 2020 KARDS World Championship. I am joined at the desk here with Scout. Scout, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. That was an insane matchup. Some missed lethals.
Yeah, that was pretty rough.
I wonder if it's the pressure of the tournament getting to these guys. You know, obviously we don't, because we're not able to do this in a studio, we don't have the full, you know, body language and everything. But I can assume that these guys are fairly nervous and the tensions are high playing in these matches.
Yeah, especially on the second day. They've already won their first round, and now it's becoming more of a, almost like more of a real realization for some of these guys. Like, oh wow, I'm this close. You know, I'm only a couple steps away from taking it all.
Yeah, and I mean, not to say that it wouldn't be a big deal to anyone, but you know, winning a $5,000 grand prize, I think, would be especially a big deal for a lot of our Chinese players. So, you know, I think, yeah, super excited to see the continuous battle here. And we're about to head on into the next matchup. That's going to be Yujin taking on Zhan Yu. What can you tell us about the decks that these guys are bringing?
Looks like Zhan Yu's going to be taking his Japan-German kind of air mid-range deck. I believe we saw it a little bit yesterday. Seemed to do all right. It was that one with the Reichsbanks, right? And he could do that super big pop-off with the aircraft. Like any aircraft that sticks, he could really get an explosive play out of it. However, I believe that deck is banned, so looks like we won't be seeing that today. More Soviet-US tokens, so you've seen that a little bit so far. Germany-Japan discard. And a Brit-US air deck. Pretty run-of-the-mill standard stuff. And Yujin is going to be playing a British-German control with more discard. I don't think we've seen British-German discard played yet at this point. A Soviet USA control deck, and of course with things like Urals on B-17s to get some cheeky Pershings out. May see some of that action. A Japan-German control deck that's banned, and a German-Japan mid-range, much like Fenrir's deck that we saw a couple games ago against the Japanese aggro of Graf.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing's for sure, we're going to see pretty exciting matchups here. But before we head into the best of three and we get the players all situated, we're going to be spoiling another card. So let's jump on over to our spoiler screen here. Are you ready for this one? You've obviously been helping test these a lot, so these were not going to be as surprising for you, but you might be able to talk a little bit about them, having given them some thought in the past. This time it is a German card. It is an order, and it is called U16. At the start of the enemy's next turn, the enemy must choose and discard a card from hand.
Okay, so obviously more of that choose mechanic coming in, where you can choose a card in your hand and kind of do something with it. I think this is a really good step for discard. I've had some very, hot takes on discard in the past, but I think this is a really good direction for discard to go, giving players a lot more agency in what's getting discarded, and make it not feel so crushing and painful. We've seen discard a lot in the top 16 here, where it is kind of, there's a lot of randomness to it. Like sometimes you'll discard something really unimportant, or sometimes you'll hit something absolutely critical. And this card, it is very cheap to play for a discard at 1 credit, of course, but it gives the player that choice. It gives the person getting hit by the discard that choice, and it could mean it maybe isn't so frustrating to play against for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also, at the start of the enemy's next turn, right? Which means that he's going to draw a card and then choose a card to discard, right? So you're not even locked into just discarding something that's already in your hand. You might be able to draw, a cheap, non-important card off the top of your deck, get rid of that instead. And this won't stop you from, putting deck pressure on your opponent as German discards, but it definitely will make it less painful to play against it and give the opponent more strategic options to deal with it.
One important thing to note, some of you may be thinking, oh, this is really great against like a Jackson or something. I believe it does not work on Jacksons because this does technically count as you discarding yourself.
That's interesting, and that's going to be the interesting thing to kind of look at in the future, to see if that's the way it's being used, and if that's the way it will end up being played. You know, I know that there were some, it hasn't been fully tested with the Jackson right now, for instance. So we still have some discoveries to make there. But before we head on into the next match, let's take a look at the bracket here real quick. As it currently stands, Fenrir and CCMS 31 have secured their spots in the top 4. Fenrir, the only person making a repeat appearance in the top 4. And by securing their spot in the top 4, they are securing themselves a part of the cash prize pool. So the way the prizes are distributed is the first place will get $5,000, second place will get $2,500, third $1,500, and fourth place $1,000. So all of these players that are making it into the top 4 here today have secured themselves at least $1,000. And that's also why you got to think, some of these guys are making basic mistakes, but there's $1,000 on the line for that match.
Right.
All right. Well, looks like we are just about ready. I'm getting the final piece of information here. And once we are ready with that, we're going to be heading on into the game. Let's bring Bubbles and Blue with us here for a little bit. And what do you guys think about the U16 card we just revealed here?
I mean, it's really interesting. It's fairly unique. Not something we've seen in the game yet. I'm interested to see how it will work if you hold it as a late game card. Because I know it's a 1-drop, and your go-to is, hey, I'm going to drop this right now. But if you wait until your opponent has, 2 cards in their hand, and they're saving, a B-17 and a Pershing, and then you have to make them choose between their B-17 and their Pershing. Kind of use it as a late game card, but it doesn't take your entire go to use. It's just a 1-drop.
Yeah, I think you're onto the right thing there, Bubbles. I think the later the game goes on, I think the value of the card goes up quite a lot. Exactly like you said. If you're firing this off on turn 1, opponent has many choices as to what to get rid of. It could just be some crap, Maybe they have a Chaffee in their hand. They just discard that. But and again, I think that's how a lot of discard works. Is the later in the game, the better it gets. Sniping those really high impact cards later, kind of like how Wolfpack does, Annihilation does as well. Those cards don't come down till later, so I think you combo all those together in sort of the later game. So I think it's going to be great. I mean, it is also a 1-for-1 trade as well, so you're not actually gaining +1 or -1 card, but you will trade up as far as the credit value of a card. If you're trading that for a B-17, you're trading a 1K card for a 9K, which I think is big.
I think also, though, you can build your deck around that. You can say, okay, I'm going to take one of your cards and one of mine, but then I'm also going to have this draw card and refill my hand. You can have Empire of the Sun or something. So you drop your entire hand of discard, trash your enemy's hand, and then you play Empire of the Sun on their 1 big unit left and refill your hand. You've got as many cards as you need. They have none.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be too. Almost like a kamikaze hand attack.
Yeah, exactly.
Refill.
I mean, we'll have to wait until the patch drops, and when the expansion comes out, we can try these out and we can see, hey, what worked how we thought it would, and what was really unexpected and sort of surprised us in how it would operate and work.
Yeah, and that makes me think of that card we spoiled earlier, the Catalina. You can hide your best card on top of your deck to avoid it getting discarded.
Ooh, that's actually a great point.
Now, if this becomes popular, are we going to see lots of anti-discard cards come out? If you have a Betty in hand,
All right,
can
guys,
choose
I'm
your
going to cut you
bet.
off. I'm going to cut you off, Bubbles, because it is time to head on into this best of 3 series between Yanju and Yushin. Who is going to take this best out of 3 and secure themselves a spot in the top 4 and $1,000? Let's find out right now. Bubbles and Blue, take it away.
Thank you, Ollie. Thank you, Scout. So we've got Yuzhen here versus Yanzu. Yuzhen bringing Brits. I believe this is a... Let me just look at the deck list real quick. This is a Brit German control, quite a weird deck. And then obviously this is tokens coming out from Yanzu. Tokens seeing a lot of success so far. I think one of the more dominant decks we've seen altogether. Unfortunately for him, having to drop that front to assault again to get the 1/1 tokens. And we may see Yuzhen move up his honey and destroy that token when he can. Gonna go for the Kitty Hawk instead.
I think that's the most credit efficient play there, and the best tempo play as well. Getting down another body, plus taking out that token. I think that's great.
Also, I'd like to point out, it keeps your honey out of range of the root out. He can play root out now, and his honey and his Kitty Hawk both stay alive.
Oh, does he have a root out in hand?
Yeah, he has one in hand.
Oh.
And there you go, root out coming out and both his units surviving. Obviously, they can be hit by Bloody Sickle now. That's still a huge 4-drop.
That is pretty backbreaking there.
Although he does have essentially 2 reserves in hand. He's got this one right now, and then he has the second rifles that can get you another one. Because he's dropped the first rifles, he's got another one.
He does. And I mean, again, the game plan really with dealing with tokens is just kill them wave after wave, and prevent them from hitting the critical mass of units to where they get value out of their buffs like Alliance and Unity is Strength.
Just like to point out, if this hand is full of tokens, then this wolf pack is far less useful than it could be. Obviously, right now, there's no tokens in hand, and I think I'd like to see the wolf pack come out right now.
That is great right now. Yuzhen also probably wanting to look for a carpet bomb.
Ooh, I feel like you Monty on wolf pack, if I'm being honest. Gonna go for the Sexton, start chipping away at one of those tokens as well.
I think if he had carpet bomb in hand, I think the Monty play is a lot better. But since he doesn't, he's got to get that Sexton down and actually try to put something that can shoot down these tokens. But they're already getting a little out of hand here for Brit.
2 get useless in hand, no way of buffing them up with some sort of alliance or something. I think we'll start to see Yuzhen trying to slow down this token rush as much as he can. One nice factor of mass pin against tokens is their support line is often full up, and if you fill their support line up and pin them, then they can't play other units on that turn.
I think
Gonna try and take something out with the Monty, I think. There is that unity and strength in Yanzu's hand, which he's gonna have to play around soon, but there's so many buffs, it's kind of difficult to play around them all. He can't really kill that guy in the front line unless he trades both. So he's gonna go for the full trade. Tokens, they're one threat when they're in the support line, but when they're in the front line, they become a whole different thing because they can buff up in that one turn. Gonna see him top deck a hammer, take out the Sexton.
That was a great top deck.
Gonna just give himself the other reserves. I do feel like this discard is at a pretty potent point in the game where it could do a lot of damage, especially that draw denial. You can kind of force your opponent into making inefficient decisions just because they don't have that many choices.
The thing is, when is he going to start doing it, though? I think he has to at some point. He's just kind of been putting it off.
The worry is if you drop it and hit something useless, and then Yanzu just moves up and takes over the game.
And it's looked like he's poised to do just that next turn. I mean, there's no carpet bombs here. He's out of Monty. Shelling would be a nice one for him here, but I mean, he's just got a lot of air, it looks like. I think he's just desperately trying to dig for something. Ultra could be good here.
Gonna go for taking out the token. Take the front line, try and slow down the advance. There is only one token on board, However, obviously things like the Alliance can still buff these other units. I think we might see him fill up the support line soon, and then he can start to buff up and do lots and lots of damage. He does have that mass attack, so he's got hard removal, something tokens often struggle with other than their hammers.
Oh, and a high roll off the Katusha as well.
This carpet bombing becoming more and more urgent. Not at 10 credit, so he can't convoy and carpet in one turn anymore.
Oh yeah, I mean it's getting pretty dire because with that the Unity in his hand, that's what a +5/+5 on one of his 4/8s or 4/8
I
or
think
4.
you have to ultra. I think if you don't ultra, you're setting your opponent up to just absolutely annihilate you with a huge buff. Tokens don't really have many buffs which aren't in orders. They do have the guards, the 2/5. Gonna find
There's
the carpet bombing. I think this is definitely an ultra turn.
but
Yeah, you go.
he has reserves that he can just do almost as like a he can test for it, you know. I mean, we'll see if he does that.
Gonna go for thinking about mass attack, thinking
I would
about reserves.
first, yeah.
Still, though, hitting a reserve's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, you want to hit one of these buffs with like a Unity or something. Gonna take 10 damage to the face. We're probably going to see a carpet bomb come down next turn. Absolutely clear the board.
Yeah, but how does he deal with a 10/12?
And they're going to do 7 damage to the face. He needs to get like an albacore as well, or some way of dealing with that unit in the front line. Gonna find a second carpet bombing.
He can't. He doesn't have a way
He's
to do
gonna
it.
heal. No, he's gonna heal. Got the carpet.
He's still dead.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's
14
that's
damage.
game.
Wow.
GG.
Yeah, GG there, and congratulations to Yanju for the game 1 victory. Really impressive that he got those tokens so big, and a tough spot for Yujin to deal with.
Yeah, I feel for Yujin there. Really looking for that carpet bomb. Pretty much the only card in his deck that he has to stand a chance against that. He needs the carpet bomb against tokens, or else he's just out. And even discard itself, it's just with all the light infantry getting tossed in hand, it's really hard to get value out of that. I think that was just a really hard matchup for him. It was going to be an uphill battle all the way.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like you said, he needed to find that carpet bomb possibly a turn or two earlier, right? Just being able to get rid of that mass infantry spam, make that Unity his strength a little bit less powerful, would have definitely swung the game likely in his favor. You saw that on that final turn, right? He was what, 2 HP away from surviving another turn. Yeah, a couple of turns earlier with those carpet bombs would have made a huge difference. But we're ready for game number 2 here between Yujin and Yanju. We wish them the best of luck, and we send this over to Bubbles and Blue Blast.
Thank you, and we're straight into game 2. Yanzu bringing Brits, seeing I think this is Soviet control with USA for Yujin. He does have Urals, so he may try and pump out some Pershings at some point. Obviously, Ural with the B-17 gives you a Pershing. And this is the Brit air deck. Seeing the Albacore, we've seen the Secret Ops, which has been more popular than I expected lately.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this deck last round, didn't we? Another version of this.
Or at least a very similar one, yes.
Yeah. Which is crazy to me because on all my time on ladder, I have not seen an air deck with the number 2 Commando and E-Surreys and Sexton, kind of like almost like a big air deck.
So I've been testing this deck on ladder. I believe we actually got matched up one time, and I don't want to throw you under the bus, but I believe when we matched up, you had a traditional deck and I had this deck.
Yeah.
And it absolutely annihilated just because it's so difficult to play around. And I think with the testing I've done on ladder, I definitely think there's something to be said about this deck and that we've been missing out by not using it. Surprised we don't see him trade in Secret Ops there with the Commandos. I kind of expected him to want to keep it alive from orders, because from the people would just remove it right now. Gonna aggressively trade, heal himself for 1, get down the mortar rifles. If Yanzu can find a way to heal these guys in the front line, number 1 Commandos, maybe like a we can do it. Never mind, just gonna trade. Open up that HQ to being attacked. Does have the radar alert. May try and get a 5-drop from it.
Yeah, if Yuzin goes for the, I'm pretty sure he's going to go for the yak here to block the bomber. And then
probably a 5-5 Spitfire, right?
Yeah, you get the 5-5 Spitfire.
Gonna go for the ramps. That's 2 credits wasted. Or somewhat wasted in the countermeasure, but he can always drop it again, and if an even bigger unit comes down, you can get something even scarier. Thinking about buffing up. Gonna tickle face for 2. Put down another albacore.
I think you just drop the other albacore.
Yeah. You set up to go very, very wide. You know AoE is something Soviets struggle with, so you can sort of go wide fairly safely. The only card in hand, a 5-drop, and he's not dropping it.
Still not deciding to drop the yak. I mean,
you see him hovering over the credits, though. I think he knows what's up. I'd be surprised if he wasn't aware of the radar alert here. Possibly, though, Yanzu might be able to force a bad situation just because Yuzin isn't able to drop a unit.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you at this level. These players definitely have every countermeasure
and
in mind.
A 9-drop coming out. Absolutely huge. 7-4 bomber. That can one-shot. And hovering over the surrender button.
Is it lethal?
And he just surrenders.
Whoa. Oh my goodness.
Playing around the air defense or the radar alert for so long, but then one little mistake at the end, and that's a 7-4 bomber. I feel like he should have tried to find a weaker unit to kind of prime it first.
Man, radar alert just winning Yanshu that game there.
So we can say he didn't see that radar alert coming.
That surprised me because he was hovering over the credits like the turns before. I thought he knew that the radar alert was there. And then I was really surprised when he dropped that B-17. Of course, B-17 pretty much guaranteed to make radar alert trigger a Lancaster, and that's not what you want. That's not what you want at all.
Definitely not. That was absolutely crazy. And, you know, a super quick 2-0.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I don't think we've seen a third game yet, have we, today?
No. Man, these players are showing up to play, and Yanju just secured himself $1,000 there in 15 minutes.
I do have to wonder how much time has been spent since yesterday of these players studying the decks they're going to go up against. Because when you know who you're up against, you definitely study their decks, and if you've got a buddy, you say, hey, can you pick these decks, and we challenge each other, and you practice with a matchup. So these players may be far more comfortable than they were yesterday.
Yeah, man. I'm just a little bit, shell shocked after that powerful display.
I am too. Yeah, how fast these matches have been going it's incredible.
They mean business, Why wait around? Show up, win the game, go home. What more needs to be done?
Yeah.
That's right. And we're going to be on to our last match then of this top 8, right?
Yep. We're going to be going... Oh, yeah, okay. We're going to be going into the final best out of 3 here. That's going to be between Darkness and XY Loser. That's going to be our final P of 3 today. But before we head on into that, I did talk about it yesterday, but I want to reiterate it now. Coming in, Breakthrough, our new standard table props for all nations. Germany's going to stick with the Luger, but all the other ones are going to get new ones, and these are going to be given and be available to every player for free. So if you haven't seen it already, these are the items that you can look forward to.
I love that sparking on the new battlefield.
Yeah, that was it. Those were the new table props that are going to be coming. It's a Colt 1911 for the U.S. It's a Tonto blade for the Japanese. It's a nice little drum mag from the PPSH 41. If Oberkommandant will give me a plus in the grade book now, and finally an Enfield pistol for the British.
Yeah, they all look pretty nice.
Are you a fan of the cosmetics?
Me?
Yeah.
Dude, I love cosmetics. I should love them more than anyone because I'm such an old player. Like all the time, you guys are like, "Oh, here's card packs. Here's card packs." That means nothing to me. I already have all the cards. So when there's new cosmetics coming in, I am all over that.
Well, then this should be a fairly entertaining expansion for you, given how many cosmetics are coming in. But alongside these cosmetics, there's going to be a little bit later on. It's not going to be ready right on the 9th of December, but a little bit later on into Breakthrough, there's going to be a new cosmetic store that is going to stock these cosmetics that have been available in a new way and kind of keep them available both with and without extra cards with them and so on. So, like we've been doing the bundles with the card backs, the card back and 5 national packs, we want to make it so that you're also able to just buy the card back if you don't need the cards. So that's going to be an exciting thing and going to be an exciting new option for players to kind of both support us developers and to customize their gameplay experience.
And are you saying that some of these some of these old card backs that were available for a limited time, they might be coming back, or is it going to be all new stuff?
Yeah, they might be coming back. So we definitely don't want to, just make stuff that gets deployed once and players that we're playing, in 2020 can do it, but then in 2025 nobody can get it. We definitely want to make it so that you're able to get use out of them, and if you want them, get them. All right, I just want to... All right, well, with that, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be bringing you the best out of 3, the final best out of 3 today, determining who is going to be the final person to qualify for the top 4, secure themselves $1,000, and be one step closer to that coveted title of World Champion and the $5,000 check that follows. So we'll be right back in 3 minutes. See you. Don't go anywhere. Call your friends and get ready, because when we get back, it's Darkness versus Cy Loser. Welcome back to the KARDS 2020 World Championship. My name is Olav Trapp Steinarsson, and we have the final best out of three today coming up right after we spoil another card.
Chat, I hope you guys are ready.
So yeah, we're gonna set up the spoiler screen here. Get everything sorted. All right, well, the last one that we did get was the U16, but this time around we're going to be spoiling another one. And this one is interesting. This is another US one. Actually, you always get the USA ones, so lucky you. This one is an order, and I think this one is going to spark the imagination of a lot of the players in chat, and they're going to start theory crafting how to incorporate this into their USA decks. It is called Special Assignment. It is a 6-credit order, and it's simple. Choose a unit in hand and add it to the battlefield.
Well, I mean, immediately you think of all of the big baddies that you can drop. The B-29 Super Fortress, of course. But even like a turn 6 B-17 is pretty spicy. Turn
so
6 event.
This doesn't proc deployment effects because it's add to the battlefield, right?
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, you're right about that.
So it's really, really good with blitz units in particular. So my big thing is, like, with this, you can deploy a Pershing, move it up to the front line, and attack with it for 12 credits. One thing, you could deploy a Super Fortress and attack with it.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, if you have 10K. Put this down and you get to hit with the 9/9 heavy armor bomber. That's pretty insane.
Yeah. So definitely a huge addition to the USA arsenal here. And you can bring 2 copies of this as well. So it's going to be interesting. You might be able to bring it with different nations because this is not an elite. So you could bring this with you could bring this with Soviets and play the Joseph Stalin out on turn 6, and then have an 8 2 heavy armor, 1 op cost tank on board. So many options that this card opens.
Right, turn 6 Tiger E would be pretty insane. Can't target that with orders. How do you deal with that as early as turn 6? I mean, I think that's that's the really powerful part, how early you can get down something that big.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a huge one. I do have one extra card that we're going to spoil, a new pincer card that's going to come after this best out of 3. So for anybody that is watching, don't just immediately shut down the stream after we secure our last finalist here, but stay tuned and watch for that final card reveal. But let's swap back gears into the World Championship Blue Blast, and let's talk about this matchup we have coming up. Darkness versus Xyloser. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, well, this is, I think this is going to be the big match of the day, right? This is going to be kind of the one that, especially the European audience, are really going to be watching. They're only representative left here in this top 8. And, I'm just looking at the decks, and I'm seeing a lot of good things. We just received the bans. Both players are banning each other's Brit deck, so Darkness will not be able to bring his sort of signature Britain USA deck with East Surrey's, the Cadet Nurse Corps, we can do it, mobilization sort of strategy. So we're going to be seeing some games from him with Feign Retreat Jagro, which is my preferred style of Jagro as well. I think it has that extra power for the late game and against control decks. And then he's also bringing a very, very powerful Soviet Japan control deck, which we've seen a lot from Jay King in the OCC and Darkness as well. And then his final deck is USA Brit. Just USA Brit ramp control, pretty standard issue. Everything you expect to see with Pershing and strategic planning, B-17. And Xyloser, his Brit Japan air deck was banned. Darkness does not want to have to deal with any sort of aggressive air deck today. And I can understand. it's just so fast with the amount of tempo it can get, and
Yeah.
the 1K buffs like the close air supports can just blow you out of the water before you even know it.
Yeah.
So then the remaining of his decks is going to be USA Japan is going to be sort of an aggressive deck with howitzers, M8 Greyhounds, Hellcats, Sendai, Kagoshima, um, and then the final deck is Soviet with USA. Uh, Kind of like, oh, it looks like to be the tokens deck that we've kind of been seeing a lot of today, which has done very, very well. Oh, and actually, he's got one more deck, which is Japan Germany, which has Naval Supply Run, the Shiden, Bombing Raid 0.
Ooh.
So this is kind of spicy here. Sort of an air deck. He has Volksgrenadier with Blitzkriegs and Encirclement.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm most excited about like West meets East here, right? Like the Western champion battling himself through the Eastern bracket, so to speak, right? It's just kind of this is almost reminiscent of like European or U.S. Chess players going to the Soviet Union back in the day. I feel like that's what we're seeing here with cards, right? Because the Chinese have just come into this World Championship and done like, hey, you thought you knew how to play cards? We're here to teach you something different, right? So a lot of pressure on the shoulder of darkness, not just $1,000 hinging on this match, on this best of three, but also representing the representation of Europe and the Western community. So,
Bragging rights as well.
oh yeah, bragging rights. That's going to be a huge one. So I'm gonna give the players the green light to go ahead into the best out of three matchup. Unfortunately, we do not have Zyloser's POV. He is unable to get that working due to internet connection availability over there in China. But the players are good to go. So I expect them to be issuing the challenge and for us to get into the game shortly. Your predictions?
Oh man, my predictions. I think for the sake of the audience and us here all watching, I would love to see it go to a game 3, kind of for an epic showdown here. I'd love it. I'd love just to see that back and forth. If I had to pick a horse in this race, I would go Darkness, man. I have to.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at chat reacting to us showing the card. People are going crazy. All right, well, we're there. We're into the game. It is time for the final best out of three here today. It is Darkness against Zyloser. Who's going to take it? Who's going to secure that last spot in the top 4 and $1,000 at least? We'll find out, and we'll throw it over to the casters, Bubbles and Scout.
Thank you very much, Ollie and Blue Black. Let's get right into this game. Looks like someone's loser going with a US Japan deck, and Darkness
Yeah.
playing his Japan Feigned Retreat aggro, I believe.
I believe so. And this deck from Zyloser is a very kind of sort of frontline based deck. You've got these Greyhounds, you've got the Shermans, but then you also have like the Howitzers who are really, really effective at just blasting out units on the support line. Looks like he's
Is he
gonna...
running any buffs in that deck, do you know? Similar to like maybe an L640 deck?
I believe he's running some, but he's not going all in on the buffs. He's sort of going a bit
Gotcha.
more reserved and having more than one game plan. This Greyhound coming out is really, really powerful because this has free defense. It can trade almost consistently with 2 Japanese units. And we're going to see that now. It traded with a 15th cav, and now it's trading with a bicycle regiment.
Greyhound, definitely a very strong, one drop unit. Possibly maybe one of the strongest one drops in the game. I think that card often goes pretty overlooked.
It's
How
certainly
powerful it is.
powerful. It's got strong stats even without the active ability. And then when you do move it into the front line, if you have like a howitzer in the back line, you can buff it up and make it strong.
Obviously, with USA enabling things like the Sherman and the Howitzer, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to see Akita move up to the front line, sort of pressure that infantry, because obviously you risk it dying when the Akita procs. Going to see if Zyloser has any way of dealing with it in hand. I think ideally for him would be another Greyhound, but we'll just see what he has.
Both players here definitely looking to get really good control of the front line. Both decks very, very just honestly just pretty key for them both.
And dropping a Sherman without the front
Ooh.
line. Now, if this is a bit of a Tau, if you drop a Sherman without the front line, it means you have another one in hand. Dropping one just without a second one to follow up is really, really quite a brave play, and I'd be surprised if he hasn't got another one. Gonna secure the front line.
Darkness probably going to go face here. It's usually what you want to do. You want to get as many face attacks in as you can, and then rely on most likely death effects later into the game with this kind of deck.
Certainly, every point of damage you get in now is very, very important.
Ooh, for the Emperor. Allowing him to maybe...
Possibly push up to the front line.
Yeah,
Lucky for
secure
him,
the
the
front
Akita
line.
doesn't. And I think we'll see a supply shipment come out and keep this alive. There you go. There's the supply shipment.
Ooh,
He's
that's
running.
a very tough nut to crack for Darkness here.
He's
going to need to
running
pull
2
maybe
of
a
those.
Sendai. Oh, and he gets the Sendai.
Oh, that is huge, especially
What
because
a
he
top
can't
deck.
trade. He can't trade this infantry into the recon. Huge top deck, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do if you're Zai loser here now? Drop the
Not sure.
17th infantry, or was that the 19th infantry? One of those is
What's that
17th,
draw?
one of those is 19th.
He can get a favorable trade.
My concern here for Xyluza is now there's a Signal Regiment, there's a Mito, there's 2 Tapis. There's just so much damage here, and this is before Darkness has any draw. We can expect him to get either an Enigma or a Feigned Retreat, and he's got Eradas in the deck, which is a really good way of finding those. So I feel like he's almost got lethal in hand, and then with one draw engine, he's just going to end the game right there, unless Xyluza can push up and take that front line and take control. I think...
Darkness
Go on.
kind of at an awkward amount of credits. I think he wanted to get maybe 2 units into the front line, and not just the Taipei, because obviously the 3-1 there can easily trade into the Taipei pretty efficiently for Xyluzer. And maybe he was looking to get an Akita and a Mito on the front line, but just barely missing the credits for it. Gonna go with the Taipei and the first Signal Regiment. Get a decent bit of face damage off of that.
I think with the credits you have left over, that's definitely the most efficient way to play it. You could play the Akita and move it up, but it's so much less efficient. I think if Xyluza finds this strat bombing, potentially could get Sherman back and lower that Signal Regiment to make it much, much easier to take out. We know he does have Japan as his ally nation, so there's a lot of Blitz infantry he can actually find. He's got 2 cavalry, and then I believe he's got some cavalry regiment in there as well.
Do we know if he's running any kind of damage mitigation? Maybe he is at about half health right now. Not sure if he has a way to bring that back.
No healing and no damage reduction. The damage he takes sticks. There's no way of him healing back up. So each point of damage he takes is really, really quite important. And
very
really,
strong bombing right there.
He's taking so much damage, and you've got to remember, this is Xyluza's tempo deck. He's meant to have so much tempo and just overrun the board, and it's just all mitigated. And as these kind of trades go on, they're going 1 for 1, but Darkness is getting destruction effects in all of these. There's that strat bombing, getting the Sherman back.
However, Xyluzer down to 7 hit points, also low on cards himself.
And another Sendai!
Sendai!
That's
huge. Darkness, stop! Oh god, that is brutal.
And if that signal doesn't die, it's lethal. If that signal doesn't die, the Mito does 3 damage, the Taipei does 3 damage, and the one from that Sendai destruction effect. And there's not many ways of sniping that signal. First airborne being his only real choice now.
That is brutal. Both times the Shermans became a threat. Both times Darkness had top deck to Sendai.
Half track. Gonna get rid of the Sendai. Bounce the Mito. Just trying to slow Darkness down. Maybe he can burst. But I think he's clutching at straws. He's got double Mito. If he wants, he can Mito trade, Mito move up. And that way, he puts a lot of pressure on Xyluza. He basically says, if these 2 units die, you're on 1 HP, and I'm playing Jagro. And he knows he has this Taipei in hand, and if something does get buffed up in the front line, he can just Sendai if he really wants to.
This is looking pretty tragic for Xyluzer here. I'm really not seeing a way for him to get out of this.
he can do a lot of face damage. However, Darkness has lethal next turn, and I think that's going to be game 1 going to Darkness. 1-0 to Darkness if nothing unexpected happens.
And there
Gonna
it
drop
is.
Taper, just use Destruction effects. Very clean win from Darkness, and take it away, Ollie and Blue.
Man, what a powerful start to that series from Darkness.
Is it just
Really,
me or is Ollie muted?
I think Ollie's muted.
I was muted for you guys, but not for the stream. I have 2 mute buttons in 2 different windows. It's hard. It's hard. But all right. What a great start to that series for Darkness. Really finding success for that Feigned Retreat deck. Not really needing to use the Feigned Retreat, though.
No, not even necessary. I mean, the power of Signal Regiment is, I think, very underestimated in how much damage it can actually do over the course of the game. And with those Mitos, and then finishing it off with the Taipei, I mean, that's another strength of Jagro. The units deal face damage when they die.
Yep.
So you're able to trade your guys away while also lowering the opponent's health to the point where they can't kill your units. And what can you do if you can't kill a unit? You know, and you
patrol.
can't stop it from hitting your face.
You know what? I feel like as if you are running a US deck, for instance, and you have 3 patrols and you hit all of them and you're able to mitigate, let's say, a destruction effect from 3 Mito regiments or something like that, or deal with the Signal Regiment. I feel like it quickly starts to lack the damage it needs to really finish a game, right? So, but the problem with that is that if you tech only against basically feigned Japanese aggro, then you'll lose to everything else. So this is kind of a hard thing to kind of play against on ladder. But I feel like, Side Loser might have had another option here to bring for his first deck. But what we've seen from this deck from him before is that if he gets that Sherman train going, it just doesn't stop, right? It's just like he goes through his deck so fast. He's continuously putting pressure onto the front line. He's continuously buffing all his units, and it can become really, really difficult to deal with. I just question if taking it into Japanese aggro was the right call.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. And two, I play a lot of kind of a USA aggressive frontline deck. And the key advantage you really need is to be able to hold that front line for a long period of time, which against Jagro, that's tough. I mean, even against a deck like Soviet Control, like what you saw with my finals match with J King in the last OCC, where he kept pushing up guards and holding front line. I mean, that puts you at a serious disadvantage, and it's actually very tough to kind of wrestle that tempo back if you lose that front line early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about Soviet Control, Darkness has brought his Soviet deck into this game number 2. We are about to head on into it. Darkness leading this series 1-0. Scout and Bubbles, take it away.
Thank you very much, Ollie and Blue. Darkness with the Night Wishes with the Soviet deck up against Side Losers. Japan deck.
This is kind of more mid-range Chakra deck. He does have Rising Sun as his draw engine, so he's going to need the front line. Also interesting, he has Isolation, and he does have the Type 88 AA gun, the 1-3 that pins air units.
Could come in handy later against Darkness's Zeros, we'll see.
Gonna see him push up, take the front line, get some Rising Sun draw off. Very nice turn 2 for Side Loser.
Very efficient settings adjustment by Darkness there.
Yeah, Zyluza, gonna lose his unit to the Bloody Sickle. Darkness dropped the Polybomber. And it might be a difficult thing for Zyluza to take out. You kind of need a Panzer 35 or one of your AA guns. Now we're going to see one of the AA guns drop on the board, although Darkness can remove that later on if he wants to. I imagine we'll see him clear the front line for now. We may see him drop the Chaika, and we may see him drop the Engineers, depending on how he wants to play it.
Chaika seems like the really efficient play here. Of course, the anti-aircraft gun can only shoot one of these planes, And
he
Darkness
can
has the removal to deal with it much later.
he can finish off the AA gun with the From the People and just get rid of it off board. Make the AA gun buffed up, do 2 attack, 1 shots the bomber. However, he can Chiker the Type 93 and he can use From the People to take out that AA gun. I think he's in a pretty solid position. It's quite a scary board from Xyloser, but I think he's got the tools to deal with it.
Absolutely. So it's
Gonna take
34th
out AA
Infantry.
gun.
Gonna be moving up here. Darkness with a Takasagi in his hand, with heal cards, hammers, Katusha, engineers, plenty of things to kind of really stop anything those guys are trying to do. Obviously, we can't see what's in Xyloser's hand.
It's gonna drop most of it though. We're gonna see a Kagoshima, we're gonna see the other AA gun come out. But like you say, a
Xyloser
lot
with-
of tools in Darkness's hand. He's got that Takasaki, he's got the engineers, he's got the hammer. Not much that scares him, and he can remove that anti-heal from the Kagoshima whenever he wants to of that hammer, and then just start healing his HQ.
Do you wonder if Xyloser is maybe holding on to an Enigma there?
It's certainly a risk. I'm not sure if
Really-
he's studied Xyloser's decks or not, so I don't know if it's something he's playing around.
Very lucky double roll by the Katusha there, taking out that 34th.
He's only running 1 Enigma in Xyloser's deck though. It's obviously a risk, but it's less of a risk since there's only 1 of them in there.
And made what he needs now, just to try and get back his tempo. Dropping the
Panzer
Panther
hate.
3H, probably looking for that Enigma or something that he can get to swing the game back.
I'd certainly assume so, and his second choice is almost definitely going to be a Rising Sun. Not finding a Rising Sun, maybe sitting on the Enigma, maybe finds another Panzer 3H to keep digging for his deck, looking for what he wants.
Darkness's board state not looking great right now, but from what we can see in his hand, it looks like he'll be able to really swing it later on into the match.
I certainly think that hammer is going to come into play when he wants to kill that Kagoshima and start healing up. Slightly surprising we didn't see him kill the Kagoshima last turn, just playing around encirclement, because it's definitely a strong comp. And there are 2 encirclements in Xyloser's deck. Volk's Grenadier gonna go. Hammer coming out, meaning Darkness can now start to heal up. Saving the engineers. There isn't a Flampanzer in Xyloser's deck, so he can drop those whenever he feels like it. Now it's worth noting there are, I believe, 2 zeros and a Shiden in this Japan deck. So he can go late with this, just obviously not where he wants to be. You'd rather be ahead right now.
Cards like that, definitely for kind of closing out the game after a strong early mid game, but Darkness here sitting pretty with 21 hit points.
Here comes the 0. Gonna snipe the infantry, hit base of 2, put Darkness down to 20. I would be surprised if we didn't see a Takasaki come out soon. Maybe the engineers. He does
Or
have
maybe
to
maybe a sickle critical hit is
you
also
can
a
sort of
possibility.
bait though with the Takasaki on board. You can bait the 0 to hit into it, and then you finish it off with the bloody sickle, and then you can save your critical hit for something a bit more pressing.
It's also true. Probably the most efficient play. That's one thing Darkness is really good at doing, I think, is being extremely efficient with his credits, making the most efficient plays every turn.
Absolutely, you rarely see him floating any credits. He almost always has either 0 or 1 left at the end of his turn. I think a second 0 from Xyloser could potentially be powerful. However, Darkness still with a very, very strong hand, sitting on 20 health, and he does have a lot of value, especially in that tractor factories. Basically means he's not going to run out of fuel anytime soon.
It almost makes me curious to see, like, if CCMS and Darkness ever, end up in the top 4 against each other, to see what those opposites in kind of Cards ideology end up looking like.
There's that sickle bait. Can finish it off. Can also trade into the Type 93 if he wants to with his fighter. I imagine if he's going to sacrifice any units, we'll see him drop the engineers and heal, being very, very patient to drop it.
He may sickle the 0 and then use his 0 on the Type 93 and maybe
That is
drop the
true as well.
engineers.
We may even see him push up and take the front line. And what this essentially does, when you put Takasaki in the front line versus decks that need it to draw, you say, okay, to get the front line, to use your draw engine, you risk discarding your draw engine. If you've got any Rising Suns, he might discard them when he trades to try and take the front line. And Zai Loser just going to tap out. Darkness taking it 2-0.
All right, well.
Very, very fast games, and I think just not finding the draw he's looking for, getting possibly a little bit frustrated, and just tapping out and saying, you know what, you have this game.
Another quick 2-0.
Ollie's muted again.
Another quick 2-0.
Yeah, very,
Wow.
very fast games today.
Congratulations, though, to Darkness making it onto the top 4. Keeping the European dream alive for World Championship victory. Well done.
Yeah, and with that, he secures himself $1,000 and a spot in the top 4. So for everybody that is wondering how the top 4 is going to be played out, we will randomly seed these guys into a double elimination bracket, making them play as much as possible to determine the winner, because we want to eliminate as much variance as possible and leave this down to skill. So that's going to be happening on the 5th and 6th of December. So we're going to be playing the semifinals plus the loser bracket semifinals and all of that good stuff on the Saturday. And then we're going to have the 3rd place match and the grand finals on the Sunday, where we're going to crown a new KARDS World Champion and award someone $5,000. I absolutely wish we could be flying these players out to Iceland here so that I could meet them in person, hang out with them like we did last year. But unfortunately, the coronavirus situation prevents us from doing that.
What can you do? It happens, and there's always next year.
That's true. I'm just going to update the bracket here so that we can see what the final position of the bracket looks like. Keep in mind, these are not going to be necessarily the matchups that we see on the 5th of December, but huge congratulations to our top 4, the top 4 best KARDS players in the world: Darkness, CCMS 31, Fenrir, and Yanshu. Absolutely blown away by the play from these players in the past few days.
And really just an opposite to what we saw yesterday. I don't think we had any, if many 2-0s. I think we might have had 1, if any at all. But then today it's been 4 fast 2-0s. The players who have kind of found their stride are now snowballing with that, and I'm excited to see what all these winners kind of do when they match up against each other, because all of these players 2-0'd, which means they're clearly the strongest ones in their brackets. So seeing them match up against each other, I think we're going to go back to 2-1s.
Yeah, very, very possible. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because we're a little bit earlier in the day. People maybe were more prepared for today, but I felt like the pace was higher as well, right? I feel like, we were seeing them put the screws on a little bit.
Yeah, like almost more confidence coming out of these players. I noticed on the first day, like you guys pointed out, a lot slower play across the board. A lot of people taking their times, and this time it's just.
You know what it might also be. It might be because they now have experience with these decks, right? Because they did just get the deck list, the day before, so they've now had a full extra day, full 24 hours to prepare for these decks, to theory craft against them, to understand how they stand in the matchups, and kind of figure out how to play. So I think that probably plays a large part in that. But you competitive players can probably weigh in on that more.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be surprised if we hadn't seen a lot of these players practicing with the matchups, to be honest.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to think maybe we'll be seeing a Chinese team come out here soon. I would not be surprised whatsoever. With the formation of the 2 teams that we have currently, for a fact, and just the ability to practice with kind of a closed group of people is so beneficial to test out matchups and mind games and what kind of thought process and decision making you really need to do against high caliber players in that moment. And I just love what we've been seeing with all this kind of growth as far as the cards esports has been. I think it's been great for the game, great for just creating these higher level plays and getting people more involved in the competitive aspect. So I personally love to see that. And yeah, the top four have just emerged pretty decisively here. I mean, there's really no question about who is in the top four. These have been all 2-0s. And I don't think I'll be able to sleep until the top four.
Well, you're going to be severely sleep deprived in a couple of weeks then. I'm going to worry about your health if that happens. So by all means, do get some sleep. But before we wrap things up here, I do want to give a shout out. I don't know if he's in chat, Arizona Kid, but Arizona Kid, along with other people, are organizing a Christmas tournament that is open for everyone. They're going to be having 2 separate brackets, one for under 300 hours and one for over 300 hours. It means that there's going to be some sort of a skill grouping, and you're going to be probably playing against players of similar skill levels and similar collection sizes. So I am super excited to see that. Because of the delay, I can't just post the sign up link randomly now into chat. But when you hear me say this, please let me know that you need the sign up link in chat, and I will send that out for you guys. But now let's do our last spoiler here. It's Bubbles. He's with me. Yeah. Welcome. You're all right. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. This is a German card. It is a 3-drop, and it is called Stug 3G Schurzen. I don't know if that's actually the proper way to say it, but
Bit of a mouthful.
it is a 3-drop. It has 1 operation cost. It is a 3/4 stat, and its pincer move is giving unit and itself a heavy armor 1.
So when you deploy this, it will be a 3/4 with heavy armor 1, with 1 credit for its operation cost, which is pretty well statted in itself, but this can also give heavy armor to something else.
Yes, and it's going to be, like you say, 3/4 with 1 heavy armor, as long as both it and the unit it pincers are alive, right? So you're able to weaken it.
One of the potential downsides to pincer is that the other unit could die, but with heavy armor, you make the other unit more survivable.
Yeah.
I do have one thing to point out though. You can only get heavy armor 3 on a unit. You can't go heavy armor 4. You can't go heavy armor 5. It maxes out at 3. So don't be like, I'm going to put this on a Panther G and have like a, heavy armor 6 can't be targeted by orders unit. It's just not going to work.
No, but I mean, this definitely gives you a lot of flexibility, I think, with the heavy armor, because it can be used. You could play this unit, pincer something, use that other unit to trade effectively, and now it lives with 1 HP, whereas otherwise it would have died. So again, I feel like this brings a lot of strategic depth, and I feel like this is going to be a beneficial card in a lot of decks, even as an ally, right? It doesn't even have to be a Germany main deck, but how many times have you thought like, oh man, I just wish I had an extra HP or 2 on this unit, right? So I'm really excited to see how this works, because we don't have a ton of ways outside of Men of Steel. Do we have anything that gives heavy armor in the game?
I don't believe so. And you can combo this with lots of decks that like Germany as an ally. You could potentially do Japan, Germany, and give heavy armor to both your Zeros and like your Takasakis. Which could be pretty scary. I mean, these units are scary to trade into as it is. If your opponent doesn't have good orders to remove your units, Jagro could not deal with a Takasaki with heavy armor. They just couldn't pierce that kind of stuff. So I think there's definitely potential for this being used in control, as well as it being used in aggro to make your units in the front line just even scarier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the last card that we were going to reveal here tonight. So we'll just bring everyone back here for our final goodbyes. Why don't we start with you, Scout? Do you have any final shout-outs before we sign off for today?
Shout outs to my community. I know we're all one big community, but my little sub community and my Discord and stuff, they're all very, very, very active, very very supportive of me and what I like to do, and very supportive of cards in general. A lot of internal testers in there and stuff, hanging out and stuff, giving a lot of feedback, directly influencing the cards that you're seeing today and yesterday, really. and they're just, they're a quiet but really passionate group of Cards fans.
Awesome. Yeah, shout out to Scouts community, and thank you to all our internal testers for their help. I definitely wouldn't be able to build these expansions without them. All right, Blue.
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you to Ollie for having me on, and the whole 1939 team for putting on this World Championship. Thank you to Bubbles and Scout for casting with us, and Ollie, and having us be this great team here today. And check out Team Radiant Gaming, our website. We're doing weekly cards articles about things like the in-game economy, what cards new players should craft. Also check out my Twitch. I do card streams. Check out the VODs as well for some good content there. And that's all I'll say. I'll just throw it over to Bubbles.
I wanna thank the little streamers today. Usually we thank sort of the big community members, the sort of big pillars, but really there's all these little Twitch streamers who stream with like 3 or 4 viewers, and I see them on there every day with 3 or 4 viewers. So shout out to them. Go and give them a follow. Go and say hello and see what's up. I'm sure there's so many great cards content creators out there just waiting for us to come and find them. So go check them out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just posting the rules and sign up link into chat here for the players so that they can get to know the Christmas tournament that Arizona Kid and his friends are hosting. We do appreciate all community run tournaments, of course, as well. They add so much flavor to the community and give amazing opportunities for people to participate, learn the game in an exciting and fun and supportive environment. And that's kind of a hugely important thing in general, especially in cards, right? You're not the kind of person, nobody's going to come into cards and just win all their games. You have to lose. You have to go through the motions of learning, and doing that in a group of supportive peers and community members. That's what it's all about. Well, alrighty then. It is time to sign off here. My name is Ólafur Hrafn, and I have been your host today. It's been my pleasure to follow these games. 4 best of 3s, all ended 2-0. Congratulations to our semifinalists. I want to take this opportunity to remind you that Breakthrough pre-orders are available in store right now. I would also love to remind you to go to Steam, give Cards a big thumbs up. That helps us so much in getting in new players, and we do read every single review. So if there's anything you want to get out there, if you want to get some feedback to us, it's fine to mention 1 or 2 things you would like to see changed in your positive review if your overall experience is positive. Another shout out I want to give is that next weekend we're going to be doing the 3rd Cards Open. The Cards Open is a tournament that is open to everyone to participate, free to enter. It is run by our organizing partner 983 Media. It's going to have a $1,000 cash prize that is going to be distributed along the top 4 players. The top 8 are going to be getting a bunch of packs, and everybody that signs up and participates in the Swiss rounds will get 1 standard breakthrough pack once the expansion goes live. So make sure to check that out. Find 983 on Battlefy. Look up the Steam news articles. We had an announcement around this, and sign up to that and get your toes wet in the tournament scene. Well, that's going to be it. All my shout-outs are done. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the 5th and 6th of December for the semifinals and grand finals of the KARDS 2020 World Championship. See you later.